Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. ओम शिष्य आत्मसमर्पण कार्पण्य दोषो उपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेताः यश्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम् ओम. So we are in the second chapter, 13th shloka of Bhagavad Gita. The shloka goes like this: Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhirastatra namuhyati. So, asmin dehe dehinah yatha kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi. Dehinah means the one who is in the body, who owns the body, which is the Atma. Deham is the body. What does the Deham, which is represented as Dehe in the shloka here, what does it undergo? It undergoes transformations. They have not included, or Bhagwan has not included the birth, but he just speaks of the death. Right? So we are going through Shad Vikaraha, is the way that we typically put it. Right? So the others are Asti, which is existence, Jayate is birth. And after that, you can come back to this Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara. Right? So now this Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara, which is the childhood, youthfulness, and old age, these are transformations. While these transformations are happening, the Atma, the soul, remains a witness. For something to remain a witness, we have discussed that it cannot undergo a change. It must be the same. So being the same, it witnesses the transformations in the body. Tatha, similarly, dehantara, when this body's end comes to the realization or comes to a manifestation, or it just stops or stops being in a state of being alive, when the death occurs, dehantara praptihi, the end of this body when is attained, is the literal meaning. Dehantara praptihi. Dhiraha tatra na muhyati. And because those who have that intelligence see it in this way, they do not get sorrow. They do not get into delusion. That is the basic meaning of the shloka that we had seen earlier. We were discussing about various concepts, and here we are going to talk about the Ātmasvarupam. Your mind. When we say manaha, it represents the creative and emotional aspect of the mind. Typically, we touch our heart. If in case we are overwhelmed, we always feel that in our heart. Buddhi is automatically hand goes there. It is the intellect, an ability to rationally analyze things, logically see it, dissect and deep dive into it. Those are all the characteristics of the Buddhi. I'm sorry, here it should have been your Atman is thus recognized by you in the form of Sat, Chit and Anantam. Right? Because the mind has the ability to look at it. Now, that stable aspect, which is the witness aspect, you can literally see it as that which is of the Swarup of Sad. What is the Swarup of Sad? That which gives an existence to something. If I am not giving this existence to this body, as in if the soul is not giving existence to this body, it is not too far down the line that the body will decay. It will go through the natural transformation processes. It will not have an entity related with it. So you can apply it and say that this existence is something which is not there in the body, and because the other aspect, which is Atman, is providing it, it is gaining that existence. That is the way we can rationally look at it. Similarly, this body, the moment it dies, has got no intelligence left in it. You put it in the fire, it will treat the same way as you throw it in some kind of a river or some place. There is no sense attached to this body in terms of pain, pleasure, or anything. The ability for this body to acquire this intelligence is again given by the soul. And that is what is called as Chit or Chaitanya Amsam. The last one is Anantam. Now, this Anantam is also something that can be logically analyzed by us, and we can derive that as well. How? We take the example of a seed. 10 seeds, only one tree comes up, whereas all the 10 are seen to destroy itself in the ground where it is planted. But this one tree will sprout with its roots as well as the main body of the tree that we see. That aspect, something which is there inside the seed, is called as the Karana Sharir. And that is again attributed to the Atman, because it requires intelligence for it to evolve into something. You can yourself look at your body and see how many things are there. There is liver, there is hand, there is muscles, there is nervous system, and everything you can feel it. And they are all held together into a system. For something to operate as that system, there has got to be some huge intelligence behind it. And that is attributed to the Chaitanya Amsam. And because of that, it also says it existed before, and we know that upon death, it leaves, meaning that is no longer associated with the body. The Chaitanyam and the Satsvarupam is no longer associated with the body. The Prakritic nature will naturally take over and it will do that which it has to do. So something that existed before and after becomes the soul. This is the logical way of coming to the conclusion that the Ātmasvarupam is Sad, Chit and Anantam. Your impurities or the adharma and the sins reduces the ability of this bright Atma to reflect through you with its fullest potential, potence. And what we say is the sins or the adharma is not necessarily something that you have committed. For you to be born, there has to be some amount of sins and good deeds that should come together for you to gain this form of existence. So we call that as prarabdha karma, the manifested karma from an accumulated karma that is associated with this jivan. Right? Now, when the adharma is there, automatically the light, which is what we equate the chaitanyam to be, the intelligence, the Ātmasvarupam to be, it will not be able to traverse in the same way like what a cloud will do to a sun. It will reduce. Similarly, your sins and your adharma will naturally reduce your ability to express yourself. That is why when you go to the Yoga Shastra, they say you start from the cleansing of yourself, yamaha, and the niyamaha. Yamaha is the removal of those impurities. And niyamaha is regulating yourself into dharma. And then only everything else will follow. Right? So this aspect is considered very, very important in our tradition. For us to be able to learn better as well, we need to reduce our adharma and practice the dharma as a voluntary measure. So that is what the Sad, Chit, and Anantam reflects or identified with the Swarup of the Atma. Have written, we encounter death each day and sometimes even in close circle, and yet there is an obsession in me that I am going to live forever, which is the biggest of the jokes, right? So the idea is to say that the concept of Anantam, the eternal thing, is there in this Ātmasvarupam, which is giving the existence to you. And hence, there is a desire in you to always see things as eternal. And this is another logic that we present to put forth the knowledge that the Swarup of Atma, the constituent of what we call as the soul, is these three, Sad, Chit, and Anantam. We also include Vyaptam. It is totally engulfing everything. And it is the one which provides the ability for the Prakriti to exist. There is a Vedic mantra, Purnam Adaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Right? They both, the Ātmasvarupam or the unmanifested form, as well as the Prakritic Swarupam, which is the manifested form, they both have an eternal existence. It will come in Bhagavad Gita too. Right? They are, but the Prakritic Amsam, which is the manifested objects, have a dependent existence, whereas the Atma has an independent existence. Now, tradition-based clarification, I was looking at it from a logical analysis. Anaatma. Earlier, we described Anaatma as Stula Sukshma Karana Shariram. Some traditions add the reflecting nature of Atma in the Anatma as another amsham called as Chidābhāsam. Chaitanya Abhasam. Tamil, Abhasam has a different meaning. It has got a very negative context, whereas Abhasam in Sanskrit means reflecting. Abhati iti abhasah. That is the way that word is derived. That which is similar to is the meaning. So, Chidābhāsam is the thing that makes you feel or makes the manaha to feel, makes the buddhi to think, makes the body to function. Everything. Right? That aspect is the reflection of the Atma. That is a spark in itself. So there are some traditions which go into the next amsam called as Chaitanya Abhasam or Chidābhāsam as part of Stula Sukshma Karana Shariram. Okay, so there are some traditions which just include it as part of Sukshma Shariram, but there are traditions where Chidābhāsam is identified as a separate aspect. We do not do that in our tradition, right, in the Vedantic study. However, we do analyze this as part of Anātma Vivekam, right, which comes as part of the Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, Vivekam, Vairagyam, right, Shamam, Damam, Uparamam, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam, and Mumukshutvam. Right? So this is again, if in case we go into the text called as Tattva Bodha, right, we can really learn a little more in that particular text. We will pass it for now, but we just remember that logically also we can put the case in terms of what is the swarup of the Atma. And traditions have also defined the swarup of both Atma and Anātma. And that which exists or that which is not Anātma is Atma. Going into some of the clarifications, right? Some traditions express that upon death, Manaha as well leaves the body together with the Karana Sharir. Okay, so you will see that actually there are some YouTube videos that I later saw after preparing this slide. I had heard this YouTube video where they were talking in terms of Manaha as well leaving the body, or Manaha being seen as part of the Karana Sharira. But in our tradition, we do not agree to that thinking. Our argument is, should Manaha leave the body, then upon moksha, what happens to Manaha? That will be the biggest of the question. So those traditions which do not believe in the Advaita, they may still say it is with the Dvaitic aspect, be it Visishtadvaitam or Dvaitam, there is a dualistic approach, right? Visishtadvaita says the relationship as the branch to the body, whereas Dvaita says very clearly too. So they can very clearly say that the Manaha will continue with that. But in the Advaita Parampara, where we see the whole as the Ātmasvarupam and Mithya as the Prakriti, the reason is it is not called Asat. It is not that the Prakriti doesn't exist. We also know Prakriti exists, but it has a Mithyatva Bhavam, which means it expresses as though it exists, but it continuously degrades and changes. What you have seen now is not the same that you are seeing now, because we have lost 1 second in this. Right? So we we take it from that point of view to establish why it is called as Mithya. But because we see it as a singular amsam and Jivatma to be merely a misconception, Manaha being associated with the Karana Sharir will leave a void on what happens to Manaha upon the moksha. This fails the rule as observed by Bhagwan in the Shloka number 16. Existence can never have a state of non-existence is the core of that particular shloka. Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate satah is the way that shloka goes. But here, there, Bhagavan very clearly says that if you attribute the existence to Manaha, then it can never have a non-existence. However, moksha will take us towards the manonasham. And hence we say manaha should not be seen as part of this. Manonasham fails on two counts, which is the first one, Shloka number 16 that we just saw. Manaha is continued to be the experience by a jnani. This also is asserted by Bhagavan in Shloka number 60, that even jnanis will experience the influences. Right? So this negates the Jivan Mukti. So the way that it goes is in the 60th Shloka, he will be describing about a concept called as Stita Prajna. In that, he will tell you, Bhagavan will say that one who has let go of all the desires, and in the same sequence, he will also clarify that even to the jnanis, the attraction will be natural, because that is the manodharma. Right? So, because it is natural, right, we have to attribute it with the body, with the Prakritic nature, and not the Ātmasvarupam. We talk of two things, Jivan Mukti and Krama Mukti. Right? Krama Mukti is where, based on the Upasana, you elevate from this Loka, this Prithvi, this human form, to the Brahma Loka. And when you reach the Brahma Loka, from there you can attain the moksha. With every other loka, we know that there are 7 lokas, right? There are 7, I use the term dimensions of existence. We are in the 3 dimension of existence, which is called as Bhuloka. There are ones which are above, let us say 4th, 5th, 6th kind of dimensions. Right? They go in the order called as Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. There are 7 such lokas, Satyam or Brahma Loka. There are 2 ways. Every other loka, you have to come back to the Bhuloka after you discharge the punya, the good deeds that you have accumulated. It is only from the Bhuloka and the Brahmaloka that one can attain the mukti. One who attains from this place is called as Jivan Mukti, and another who is going to attain it from the Brahmaloka is called as Krama Mukti. This leads us to the question, what is Manaha? This is something that everyone has been thinking through. Right? Manaha is a Sukshma Prakriti Amsham, and upon death, similar to how Bhuta Tattva gets liberated and joins. Bhuta Tattva is the air which is in you joins the air. The space in you has never been with you. You have been moving around, not that the space inside you has been moving around. Right? The heat in you will join the fire. Right? Like that, everything will join its respective things. Right? Bhuta Tattva. The Sukshma Tattvam also gets liberated and joins the Sukshma Prakriti. We spoke about Hiranyagarbha and Virat. Right? So the Sukshma Prakriti starts at the Hiranyagarbha level, and the Virat, which is the Stula Prakriti. So everything will go and join their respective collection of concepts. We say Trigunatmika Maya is the definition that is given to Maya. This is equated to Prakriti. Right? So the biggest problem that you will come across, biggest challenge that you will come across is people from Dvaitic schools or other, traditions. They will try to represent Maya as an object and they will try to understand it. Maya is not an object. Prakriti is the objectification, and Maya is the definition of the nature of Prakriti. Why is this so important? Why is it that I'm talking all these things? The reason is, for the purpose that we are driving towards is to get this entire knowledge into us. And while we are getting this, we develop our ability to analyze better. We develop our ability to dissect and be able to very clearly see the truth. That seeing the truth is what we are trying to address with each of these questions. Now, the Prakriti is the objectification, and Maya is the definition of the nature of Prakriti. If somebody tries to objectify Maya or define Prakriti to be something that they have seen as Maya, right? And Maya is like a magic or non-existent or that which is not truth. From that point of view, if somebody sees the Prakriti, the Maya, then they will be misled and their questions will be wrong as well. We need to be able to separate it out and explain it. I remember there was one conversation where I was talking to a Vaishnavite who is very, traditionally into Ramanuja's school, right? And when I was explaining it to him in this way, he said, wow, this makes sense. Now I can understand and relate it. So we both are not talking two different things. And I said, yes, absolutely. And we both are limited when we are speaking. It is when we elevate ourselves and go beyond, there is no speech. So the teaching is only halfway through. And in that halfway through, we both are the same. So long as we understand, we are only halfway through. And that was a good conversation. But being able to separate it out and say that, hey, we are not saying Prakriti is Maya Swarupam. The Swarupam of Prakriti is like Maya, is delusional in nature. It expresses as though it exists, but when you analyze it, when you even put a little bit of thought, you will realize that there is no existence. Maybe there is some Pravaga Nityam. Pravaga Nityam is there is a constant change and it appears as though it exists, but it does not have the Nitya Swarupam as an eternal existence. And that is what we mean by Maya. The Sattva Amsam of Maya or Prakriti is said to be manifesting as Manaha. Right? Sankhya as well as Vedanta agree to this. They see the same way. And there are some teachers who say that we have borrowed it from Sankhya, which is absolutely correct because Sankhya came before the Vedanta, as per the way that they look into it historically. Terminology used are Sattvamsam of Ahankara by Sankhya Darshana and Prakriti or Maya by Advaitic Vedanta Darshana. Chandogya Upanishad very beautifully says, Anna Rasam Manaha. From the essence of food comes the mind. Apaha Pranaha. From water comes the Pranam. Tejaha Vak. From fire comes the speech. If we are blessed with the opportunity, we can definitely look into this in Chandogya Upanishad and really study this Upanishad. Very beautiful. And we can see why it is called as Tejaha to Vak. It is because it has the ability to create as well as destroy, just the speech, for example, and we can do a lot of analysis on that. Taittiriya Upanishad also says Stula Amsham is Annamaya Koshaha, Sukshma Amsham is pranamaya kosha and ati sukshmamsam is manomaya kosha. Manas eva vijnanam samutpadyate. Right? Refined mind is the source of intellect. So it is a very, very, very beautiful concepts that we are talking about, and something that we can continue to explore forever. Conclusions. Through this explanation, what we have established is Atma is nirvikaraha, that which does not change. In the previous shloka, we had seen Atma as Nityam. Here, Bhagavan establishes that Atma is not only Nityam, but also does not change, Nirvikaraha. While the body goes through the natural changes, the Atma does not. There was once a very interesting question. While being a witness, why I could not have changed? Okay. Best example is, okay, I'm sitting in the temple. 3 people are coming and going, and because I'm sitting in the temple, this is what is happening. But while sitting in the temple, I could have also changed. I removed my shirt, I put on a new shirt, right? Or I have grown, what is a, my perspective has changed. Right? I heard somebody talk something and new thoughts came to my mind. So there are lots of things that could have happened. So while being a witness, some changes can still happen. Right? It is a very beautiful question. The answer that was given was Chaitanya Amsam is in an unmanifested form. That is something, it was so, means, when we talk to such knowledgeable people, the eyes kind of just open up. When the question was posed, it felt like, oh, yeah, that is true. While waiting, I can change. So while being a witness, Atma can change too. Right? So for that, the response, look at it from the Guru. Right? Chaitanya Amsam is in an unmanifested form. An unmanifested form of existence cannot be attributed with a change. It continues to exist, but because it is not manifested, there can be no change in it. For a change, there must be a manifestation. And hence, Nirvikarasvarupam is not only apt, but is also obvious. So now you think in terms of it. Now our mind needs to analyze it this way. Our mind needs to expand and analyze it this way. And that will lighten up this entire world in terms of the experiences that we go through. Atma as a witness is swaprakasam. Like I have the awareness that I had a deep sleep. I didn't have to go through, touch myself or anything of that sort, but I know I had a deep sleep. So that is identified with Swaprakasa Rupam of Atma, meaning it is lit on its own. It requires nothing else to enlighten it. And because it does not have a manifestation, it is nirvikara. A very beautiful Q&A. I thought I should definitely bring it to your attention. Going into the bhashyam, repeating it, whatever we have discussed is based on this. And hence, we will go through it fast and not really dive into it as to how we have attained it. If you want, you can try it out. Dehaha asya asti iti dehi. Just definition of dehi. One who has the body is dehi. Tasya dehino dehavad atmanah. Which is, what has this body is dehi, and that dehi has to be the Atma. Accordingly, Dehino represents Atma that's together with the body and controls or holds the body together. Asmin Vartamane Dehe. So here, what is Bhagavan emphasizing? Asmin is in this body, in the current body. Yatha Yena Prakarena, in the manner in which Kaumaram Kumara Bhavo Balya Avastha. I don't have to tell this. Yavvanam Yuno Bhavo Madhyama Avastha, the intermediate. Jara Vayohanihi Jirna Avastha, old age. Iti etaha tisra avastha. These three states, anyonya bilakshanaha, have distinct separation from one another. Look at the way that Acharya is seeing. Right? He is saying that these three are the avasthas, but they have distinct separation from one another. Tasam, very beautiful thing that he goes into. Literal meaning is there among them. Prathama avastha nasho. After the destruction of the first avastha, na nasho. That is, we can add Atmanaha to it. Right? The Atma does not get destroyed. Dvitiya avastha upajanane. Upon the birth of the second stage. So the body or the avastha called as Kaumaram is destroyed for the second avastha to come, but not the Atma which is carrying it. Na upajananam Atmanaha. Again, but the Atma is not born again. The soul continues. Kim tarhi avikriyasya eva, which is therefore unmade only. Vikriya, right? Avikriya, right? So nirvikaraha is the same as avikrasya, right? Means that which does not undergo a change. Dvitiya, tritiya avastha praptihi. Similarly, from the second to the third one, Atmano drishta. Atma remains merely a witness, the seer. A very beautiful analysis that he brings it. And this analysis is what has been discussed in so many texts. As I said, Shankara is known for Bhashyam, but then there are tikas and tipnis and other things, and there is so much of discussions and Vedantic, Q&As and satsanga and books being written. They are having this as the base. Tatha, thus, tadvat eva, in the same way, and eva is emphasizing only. Dehad anyo, another body, dehantaram tasya praptihi. After the end of this body is attained, there is another body that you get. Dehantara praptihi. This is what the dehantara praptihi means. Avikriyasyeva, without undergoing any change only. Even in that, the Atma remains the same without undergoing a change. Atmana, the Atma acquires it. Ityartaha is the meaning. Dhiro, Dhiman, Tatra evam sati na muhyati, na moham apadyate. Right? So, because the dhiraha, the dhiman, the intelligent or the wise person understand this, they do not fall into delusions. Okay? So that is what Acharya has put. And then he introduces the 14th shloka. Yadyapi Atma Vinasha Nimitto Moho Na Sambhavati Nitya Atma Iti Vijanatah Tathapi शीतोष्ण सुख दुःख प्राप्ति निमित्तो मोहौ लौकिको दृश्यते सुख वियोग दुःख संयोग निमित्तः च शोक इति एतद् अर्जुनस्य वचनम् आशंक्य आह. Okay, so here what he is saying is, in case Arjuna was to think, because Atma is Avinashi, it will perhaps have no moham, knowing Atma will not be destroyed. Even then, Atma can still have the dualistic experiences that could give rise to samsara, like cold or hot, right? The dualistic experiences, sukham and dukkham, right? Now, Arjuna has not asked this question, but this is another important thing in the practice of teaching or in the practice of communicating. When a person does not have a doubt, if we assume that the knowledge has been transferred, then we are wrong. A knowledge gets transferred in a very scientific way, and it can only happen when the doubts are probed. The ability to think on those areas are as well expressed, ignited, and then those are filled with. Otherwise, what will happen is Arjuna would have taken this as a gyan and he would have gone to fight. And while he is fighting with, say, Bhishma Pitama, his mind will suddenly think, oh, what about this? Because the doubts are not fully cleared. The reason why we are taking the class in this way is also because of this only. We will probe the doubts if in case you don't get it, and ensure that every possible area is covered. And humanly, every area to be covered is not possible. But we will try to cover as much as possible. We will try to open it up. We will try to ignite it as much as possible. So what Acharya is saying is, in the 14th and the 15th shloka, we were talking about Atma. Bhagavan will shift to Anaatma. What is the nature of Anaatma is what he will be getting into. Shankaracharya puts the two together and says, why is it that Bhagavan is stepping into the Anatma Bhavam in the next shloka? And to that, he says it is because of the possible doubt that can come in Arjuna's mind. So with this, we can go to the 14th shloka. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agamapayino nityaha stam titikshasva bharata. So here the biggest lesson for us, titiksha, perseverance. Going into the shloka, matraha sparshaha tu. Right? Matra sparshastu. Matra sparsha. Matra sparsha is sensory perceptions. Matra sparshaha tu, indeed, or and is only Kaunteya, O Arjuna, son of Kunti. Sheetal, we know what it is. It is cool, cold. Ushnam, Sheetoshna, Sukha Dukkadaha, which is happiness or pleasure and pain or sorrow. Sukham and Dukkham. And then Bhagavan brings about an important message here. Agama payino nityaha. Agama is coming. Apayinaha is to go, disappears. Right? Which means it is anityaha. So though it is agama payino nityaha, right, because it is the way that it is done, and the sandhi will put make it as O. So, and hence we have the S to say it is anitya, right? It is temporary. It comes and goes. They are temporary. Therefore, tam titikshasva bharata. Tam is those, all of them, the experiences that you come and you undergo. Titikshasva, endure them, learn to bear with them. And it is very important to note that this endurance is not just for the pain, which is what people tend to do. This endurance should also be for the pleasure. Remember, having that realization in us that we are enduring, we are persevering both the pain and the pleasure is an important step and an important lesson in this shloka. That is why tam, all of them, which is Sheetal, Sheetoshnam, Sheetam and Ushnam, and Sukham and Dukkham. Both of them, all of them, any kind of dualistic experiences, we need to endure them. We need to know that we are enduring them. We are persevering them. Tam titikshasva bharata. Bharata is, hey Arjuna, one who is the descendant of the Bharata Vamsham. We will get into the analysis of this in our next class. There are lots of things from the future shlokas also that we are touching upon. And the idea is to ensure that we are able to break the ice of looking at Bhagavad Gita as a textbook that we are reading to know. Like, I have done the integral calculus, I am going to the differential calculus. That is not what Bhagavad Gita is. Bhagavad Gita is something like a seed, which once it gets into it and properly watered, will blossom in your mind. The effort is towards that. Well, we will take leave here and we will connect again in our next week's class. Hari Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.